Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into one of the most famous and maybe one of the most misunderstood mass events of the last century.
You mean Fatima, right? The miracle of the sun in Portugal, 1917.
Exactly. It's almost always talked about in a religious context, purely as a Catholic miracle.
Yeah, but when you actually dig into our sources, the descriptions given by eyewitnesses, it's something else.
It really is. They sound remarkably like modern UAP encounters. High strangeness stuff.
That's the angle. If you strip away the interpretation for a second and just look at what people said they saw, it's uncanny.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Unpack this. Miracle.
Yeah.
Weird physics. Or, something genuinely anomalous, maybe even technological.
And we've got some great sources lined up. Bits from Lucia's memoir. She was one of the kids, the seers.
Right. Plus some scientific papers trying to explain it optically, and crucially, sources connecting Fatima to other historical reports that sound a lot like UFOs.
So let's set the scene. It's October 13th, 1917. Cova da Iria, Portugal.
And there's this huge crowd, right? How many people are we talking?
Estimates vary wildly, as they often do. Maybe 30,000, some say up to 100,000 people. Just massive.
Wow. And they're all there because these three young shepherd kids, Lucia Santos and her cousins, Francisco and Jacinta Marto, they'd prophesied something big was going to happen.
Yeah, a sign. A miracle to prove the apparitions they claimed they'd been seeing from a lady were real.
Okay, so let's get to the main event, the miracle of the sun. What did people actually report seeing? It started raining, didn't it?
Oh yeah, apparently it was pouring down. The whole field was mud. Everyone was drenched. Miserable conditions.
And then right around noon, the time the kids predicted.
The reports say the rain stopped, the dark clouds dramatically pulled back, and the sun became visible.
But not the normal sun, right? That's the key detail.
Exactly. This is where it gets really consistent across accounts. People described it as an opaque spinning disk, not the usual blinding sun.
Dull, even. I read descriptions like pearl-like.
Yes, precisely. Dull enough that people felt they could look directly at it without the usual pain or immediate blindness. That detail pops up again and again.
Okay, a dull spinning disc. What else?
Well, it wasn't just spinning gently. Descriptions use words like vertiginously, like a magnificent fire wheel spinning wildly on its axis.
Sounds dramatic.
Yeah.
Almost. Mechanical.
It does have that feel. And it wasn't just spinning, it was throwing off these incredible colors.
Yeah.
Multicolored light flashing across the landscape, blues, reds, yellows, purples.
Painting the clouds, the trees, the people. Imagine seeing that wash over tens of thousands of wet faces.
Must have been absolutely surreal. But then came the part that really terrified people.
The movement.
The movement. After the spinning and the colors, multiple witnesses reported the disc seemed to, detach itself from the sky.
Detach? What, like it came loose?
Yeah, and then it started moving erratically, zigzagging. Some said it looked like it was dancing.
Dancing.
Sure.
Or falling.
That's the terrifying part. Many accounts say it seemed to advance threateningly upon the earth, like it was going to crash right into them, crush us with its huge fiery weight. People screamed, prayed, thought it was the end of the world.
I can only imagine the panic. A falling sun or disk.
And then just as suddenly, it apparently zigzagged back up to its normal position. The whole thing lasted maybe 10 minutes?
10 minutes of sheer terror and wonder. Okay, but here's the detail that always gets me, the one that's really hard to explain away.
Ah, the drying.
The drying. You have this massive crowd, thousands upon thousands, soaked to the bone, standing in mud. And after this 10-minute event...
The claim, widely reported immediately afterwards, was that their clothes, and even the muddy ground, were suddenly completely dry.
How do you even begin to explain that? It's not just a visual thing anymore.
Exactly. That suggests some kind of massive energy release, localized and powerful enough to evaporate all that water instantly. That's a physical effect.
The physical trace. Which is why the UFO or UAP connection comes up so strongly here, right? It pushes past just seeing things.
Precisely. That drying element is what defines it as a high strangeness event in modern terms. It implies something objectively real happened in that field, not just in people's eyes or minds.
Right. So let's bridge that gap explicitly. If we take away the word sun and the religious framing for a moment.
What are you left with? You're left with eyewitness descriptions of a dull silver disc. That's a direct quote from one source.
A dull silver disc, spinning, throwing off colors, and then zigzagging over a huge crowd before appearing to plummet towards them.
Yes. That is practically the textbook definition of a mid-20th century flying saucer sighting.
But decades before Kenneth Arnold and the term flying saucer even existed.
Exactly. It predates the modern UFO era, yet the description fits perfectly. That's what makes Fatima so compelling for researchers looking at the historical aspect of this phenomenon.
And when you say high strangeness, you mean events that have these bizarre, almost reality-bending elements, not just a simple craft flying by.
Yeah, things like physical effects, the drying clothes here, or effects on witnesses, strange entities, apparent violations of physics, stuff that doesn't fit a neat nuts and bolts extraterrestrial vehicle explanation.
Like the sun appearing to move erratically when we know astronomically it didn't budge.
Right. That combination of objective physical traces and seemingly impossible physics is classic high strangeness. It suggests we're dealing with something beyond simple explanations, whether that's non-human tech or maybe something about consciousness and reality we don't grasp.
It really makes you wonder if we're just putting new labels, UAP, high strangeness, on phenomena people have witnessed for centuries, maybe millennia, and just interpreted through their own cultural lenses.
There's a strong case for that. Our sources point to much older accounts that sound eerily similar, like Shen Ku in 11th century China.
What did he report?
He wrote about a luminous object described like a pearl that flew, could apparently open a door, and emitted incredibly bright light. Sounds pretty strange for the 11th century.
Wow. Or jumping ahead, what about those mystery airship waves in the U.S. in the 1890s? There were some really weird ones.
Absolutely. Take the Lodi, California sighting in 1896. Colonel H.G. Shaw described encountering this huge airship, like 150 feet long.
An airship, okay. Like a Zeppelin prototype?
Not quite. He said it wasn't rigid metal. It seemed to contract and expand with a muscular motion, almost biological.
Muscular motion. That's bizarre. And weren't there occupants described too?
Yes, and equally strange. He described them as very thin, lightweight creatures covered in something soft like silk. So light, he claimed he could lift one easily.
Okay, that's pure high strangeness. An organic feeling airship with light beings in 1896.
It really stretches the boundaries, but it shows these deeply weird aerial encounters aren't just a post-Roswell thing. Fatima fits into this longer, stranger history. It just happens to be one of the most massively witnessed examples we have.
An incredible case study. Yeah, okay, but we have to put the skeptical hat on now. It's essential.
Of course. And the skepticism has strong points. Firstly, despite the huge crowd, reports also state thousands of people didn't see anything unusual at all. Just rain, then clouds parting, then sun. Nothing spectacular.
So not universal, even among those present. And the big one.
The big one. No astronomical observatory anywhere on Earth recorded any unusual solar activity that day. The sun, objectively, scientifically, did not dance, did not spin, did not plummet.
Right. So if the sun didn't move, and we maybe discount the silver disk as just interpretation, what did those tens of thousands of people see? That's the core puzzle.
It is. And how do you square any visual-only explanation with the dry clothes? That's the real sticking point for purely psychological or optical theories.
The clothes again. Can the scientific explanations account for that?
Honestly, no. Not easily. But science does offer a pretty compelling explanation for the visual phenomena, and we absolutely have to consider it.
Okay, what's the theory?
It focuses on physiological optics. Professor August Meeson was a key proponent. He argued that what people saw was basically an optical illusion caused by staring at the sun for a prolonged period.
Which the crowd was kind of primed to do, right? Waiting for a sign in the sky.
Exactly. They were looking up, anticipating. Meeson even did experiments himself. He stared at a low sun and found he saw, guess what?
A gull disk.
A uniform gray disk surrounded by a bright ring. Very similar to the initial Fatima descriptions, the non-blinding pearl-like sun. It's an effect of overloading your retina.
Okay, makes sense. Like staring at a light bulb and seeing an afterimage.
Precisely. And those afterimages explain the colors and movement. When you stare at a bright light, the color receptors in your eye, the cones for red, green, blue, get bleached out.
Right.
They don't recover at the same speed. So as your eye tries to readjust, you perceive shifting colors and apparent motion, the dancing or zigzagging. It's your eye and brain creating the effect internally.
That's actually a really neat explanation for the visuals. And does it fit with other events?
It does. Similar miracles of the sun have been reported in other highly charged religious settings, like Haraldsbach in Germany in 1949. It suggests it might be a natural, though unusual, physiological response triggered by specific conditions staring at the sun, plus intense expectation.
Ah, expectation.
Yeah.
That brings in the psychology.
Yes, the mass psychology angle. You have Tens of thousands convinced a miracle is coming. That creates fertile ground for suggestion, sheer hallucination, even mass hysteria. The optical effects provide the raw input, and the intense belief shapes the interpretation.
Even people who claimed they were skeptical beforehand could get caught up in that atmosphere.
Absolutely. And there's a fascinating piece of evidence supporting the optical idea. A lawyer named Coelho, who was there at Fatima,
Yeah?
he reported seeing the exact same colors, same spinning motion a few days later, just by looking at the sun when it was partly cloudy.
Wow, so he could replicate the visual effect himself under similar conditions.
Seems like it. That strongly suggests the visual part was an internal optical phenomenon, a repeatable biological response, not an objective external event like a physical disk moving. The experience was real for the viewer, but the sun itself wasn't moving.
Okay, so we've got this tension. The physical theory, silver disk, drying clothes, struggles because the sun didn't move astronomically and not everyone saw it.
Right. And the psychological theory explains the visuals brilliantly, but it really struggles to account for the physical effect of the drying clothes.
It feels like neither explanation fully covers all the reported details. To get the full context, we should probably touch on the religious frame again, the actual messages.
Good point. This whole solar event didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the climax of a series of claimed apparitions.
Right. There were earlier visits reported by the children, an angel of Portugal.
Yeah, in 1916.
Yeah.
Described strangely, too, like a transparent snow-white cloud shaped like a young man. And the main lady apparition was described as incredibly bright, more brilliant than the sun, radiating light.
Very different imagery from a dull silver disk.
Completely. And the messages the lady supposedly gave the children were purely theological.
What was the core message?
Essentially, prayer, penance, making sacrifices for the conversion of sinners, standard Catholic themes, plus the famous secrets.
Ah, yes, the secrets, visions of hell, prophecies.
Conditional ones, mostly. Warnings about future wars, the rise and spread of atheism associated with Russia things reflecting the anxieties of 1917 Europe. Very much about faith, sin, and repentance.
So you have this snark contrast.
Yeah.
Deeply religious messages focused on sin and salvation happening alongside eyewitness descriptions that sound like a physical, possibly metallic object performing impossible maneuvers.
Exactly. That's the Fatima paradox in a nutshell.
So wrapping this up, Fatima gives us this incredible, maybe unique opportunity to look at a single event witnessed by masses, described simultaneously in terms that fit divine intervention, explainable optical physics, and high strangeness UAP reports.
It really does. The central tension remains. Do those objective-sounding physical descriptions, the silver deck, the zigzagging, the drying effect, take precedence? Or are they just people trying to describe something truly beyond our categories, maybe divine, maybe something else entirely using the language available to them?
Or maybe the optical physics explanation covers most of it, but there's still that awkward, unexplained physical residue, the dry clothes.
That's the lingering question. And as we close out this deep dive, here's something provocative from the sources to think about. Some interpretations suggest the Fatima vision wasn't meant as a fixed prediction of the future.
Oh, how so?
The idea is that it was meant to, quote, mobilize the forces of change in the right direction, like a warning designed to prompt action to avoid the bad outcomes.
Interesting. So if we take that idea that the phenomenon, whatever its ultimate cause, divine, physiological, extraterrestrial, unknown, was a kind of wake-up call for 1917.
Then the question for us becomes, what are the potential signs of the times today? What strange events or phenomena are happening now that we might be dismissing, misinterpreting, or failing to act upon?
A challenging thought. Are we looking for answers in the sky? Or maybe, as Professor Meeson suggested, should we be looking more closely at the eye and the mind of the beholder?
Or perhaps both. We'll leave you with that to ponder. Join us next time on The Deep Dive.